Got about a minute here.
All right.
Sounds good.
Yeah, just call or cue me in when the intro thing's over, so I can't hear it.
Yeah. You won't hear it on your end, but when I'll start talking and introduce the program and introduce you, so there'll be no doubt.
All right, cool.
Yep.
And by the way, I sit on the stand and it get hot. I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They'd look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap.
Why do you keep using this? A lot of people say it's racist.
It's not racist at all, no, not at all. It comes from China.
And I love kids jumping on my lap.
It comes from China.
You are listening to the Billy Dees podcast.
Yes, indeed you are. You are listening to the Billy Dees podcast. For those of you who may be new to the program, a lot of times people search out live podcasts. And if you are doing that and you are stumbling across us, let me say welcome to the program. We primarily are a commentary and an interview program. Recently, 2 great interviews if you want to go back into the archives. And recently, we did a great interview with a man named Johanse Salimo. And he told us this story about how he came up from the area of South Central and ended up being an officer in the Air Force. Just an incredible story. And also, most recently, our interview program with Stephanie. Stephanie was very severely injured by a drunk driver. And we talk about that accident. We talk about what happened to the drunk driver and some other things. Both of these stories do have some triggers for survivors. So I would caution you on that. But otherwise, man, these are some great stories. We're live tonight, and we are talking about the election. With me on the studio line is Jack Casey. What's up, man?
Oh, not much, man. Hello, everyone. I just got back from Boston. It's a nice trip. Very interesting to see the difference in how seriously the whole pandemic thing is taken in a couple different states as well. But
really?
We can talk about that later if you want.
No, actually, I'm kind of interested. That was going to be one of my first questions. Was first of all, the election climate in Boston, what the political climate was like, and I was kind of curious. People in Boston, do you see a lot of masks? What's going on?
Oh, everyone in Boston wore a mask. I saw maybe 1 or 2 people the entire 3 days I was there who didn't have one. That was outside. Inside, no, because they will actually kick you out of a store if you're not wearing one, at least according to my sister. Yeah, there's hand sanitizer like every 10 feet. Some shops even have it outside of the shop so that you can put it on before you open the door. You don't see that here in Ohio.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. Generally, also in Pittsburgh, they seem to take it a lot more seriously as well. I mean, like when we went to the liquor store, there was a guy standing out front to keep a count of people and would only let like 1 or 2 people in at a time. I mean, you don't see that around here at all. At least I haven't.
No.
So it was kind of interesting to see how more seriously people take it, and their rates are a lot lower than ours here in Ohio too, and it definitely shows.
Yeah, I was in a store last week, and there was a line to the register that this particular store was taking forever to get the customers through. But I look back, and everybody had a mask except for one person. And this one person, maybe it was my imagination. It seemed like they were daring me to say something.
Yeah,
And that
I've
kind of
seen it.
yeah, that kind of an attitude. Now, you don't have to talk about where you work, of course, but I know you deal with the public a lot. Uh, do you sense a lot of attitude from in regard to the mask and all that where you work?
Well, I've seen one, and my boss told me about another one. The one I saw, this guy and his wife, he was one of those types in a tap out shirt, kind of like meathead type.
Yeah.
Walks in the front door of my store, and he doesn't have a mask on. And our front door, we have door greeters where I work. They're kind of like door greeters / security.
Yeah.
And so she says, would you like a mask? And he says, oh no, I'm good. Just strides on by. Just completely dismissive and rude to her, which I thought was kind of wrong. And about 3 or 4 days before my vacation, my boss actually had to yell at a customer because one customer wasn't wearing a mask and the other customer was wearing a Trump mask. Other customer walks up to the one not wearing a mask, takes his mask off, and coughs on him.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and I was like, I would kind of, because you mostly see more people on the right, like kind of anti-mask than you do on the left, so it's kind of a strange reversal to kind of hear about. But I think they ended up making him leave the store because, I mean, and in a lot of states now too, I mean, that's considered, assault.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine whether what side of the issue you are on mask. I can't believe, first of all, that masks and this whole pandemic with COVID-19 has become a political issue.
Oh, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
I don't know how that is possible. I mean,
I said this a while back. I said, Trump should have put up masks on his campaign merchandise website. And then he could have also, it would have encouraged his idiot supporters to, to wear the masks.
Yeah.
And then he would have made a boatload of money for his campaign. I don't know. He claims to be such a savvy businessman. Then you see like little skips like that.
Yeah.
and then he ended up with, COVID, which I'll admit I was kind of happy about. I didn't want him to die or anything. I just kind of wanted him to experience what a lot of other people have experienced, which he really didn't if you look at the level of treatment he got versus the average American. But, that's...
Well, before we go on further, let me kind of caution the audience. I personally don't have a political ideology. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not thrilled on either one of these guys, whether it be Donald Trump or Joe Biden. Jack is probably a little bit more left of center than I may be, but that's okay. Jack, the reason why Jack is on the program today, he's very politically astute. It's got some sharp opinions, and I there's no point in having a discussion and having a program about the election if you're just going to talk about blue skies and chirping birds, because that's not what's going on in the country right now, to say the least. But anyway, getting back to the political issue of things, I'm pretty convinced that if an alien invasion, if we were attacked by an alien force, like Independence Day, Trump would be saying, this is because Nancy Pelosi invited the aliens, and Nancy Pelosi would have been saying, Trump should have known they were coming. And it just doesn't seem like even a pandemic.
Oh, some of the infighting's been absurd, hasn't it?
Yes.
Like even just basic stuff like, hey, we got a lot of Americans about to lose their houses, and well, I'm not going to sign this until after the election. Well, I mean, holding people's lives in the balance of political capital is kind of disgusting if you ask me, and both of them are doing it.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, I know that y'all live in your high castles and in your own bubbles and don't really see the struggles that many Americans are having right now. But I mean, it's still just kind of gross that you're elected to represent and help the public and you're not doing anything about it.
Yeah.
But
going into this election, we talked about, I kind of hinted on the division. There's not blue skies and chirping birds out there. There is a lot of hostility. There is a lot of division. And I'll tell you what I believe is fueling a lot of this is there's this attitude now that if this election is the end of the world, Okay, depending on who you want. If Trump gets elected, it's the end of the world. And if Biden gets elected, we're going to become socialist, and it's going to be the end of our democracy. And here's the deal: Trump has been in office for 4 years. We're still here. You still got to go to work. You still got to take care of your family. Hopefully you're doing things in your community. All of those responsibilities, all the things you have to do are still there. Biden has been in the federal government for 40 years, 30 or 40 years. We're still here. He was the most powerful man, second most powerful man in the country for 8 years. We're still here. And we will be regardless of which one of these guys gets elected if we don't have people who are so paranoid. This is the first time, I'll ask your opinion about this, Jack. This is the first time that I can recall where I'm a little nervous going into an election. Do you have any opinion about that?
Oh, I'm really nervous going into this election because just some of the stuff going on. I mean, because no matter what side wins, there's going to be some ugliness. And, of course, there's the impending fight of suppose Trump loses, he's still going to contest it in court. People are all afraid that, it's going to be Bush versus Gore all over again, which wouldn't surprise me if something like that went down. It's just been a weird year.
Yeah.
And you were saying earlier, that you notice that there's a lot more hostility among the public. And I think that's definitely true, at least since March. Being someone who works with the public 5 days a week, 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
People definitely are a lot more. I guess one of the symptoms of it is just being really short with you.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it as much before this year, but nowadays, no one wants to talk to each other. They just want to, make the customer service robot do their bidding and keep going. I did find interesting. I early voted on Monday.
Oh, you did?
Full disclosure, I held my nose and voted for Biden and Kamala. I don't like Kamala Harris at all. Biden I'm okay with. But my main beef with Kamala being that she was a DA who kept nonviolent drug offenders in jail longer than they should have, which kind of, added more free labor for the prisons. Because, 13th Amendment, the only slaves we're allowed to have anymore are prisoners. So you just create crimes and you have, free labor. But when I went to early vote, I thought, I'll do this on a Tuesday at 3 p.m. There's going to be nobody there. I'll be in and out. Well, I ended up waiting over an hour to get into the building, and it was raining outside. There were cops, there were protesters, there were people handing out, sheets. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Even 2016, 2012, 2008, when I voted the last times, I've lived in Ravenna for most of that. And every presidential election, which I usually vote on election day, I was in, I got my ballot, and I was out in 5 minutes. It was completely different this year. So I hope that's a good thing. I really do.
Well, I getting back, you mentioned Gore. That was bad enough with the hanging chads and everything else. And what I'm worried about with the state of affairs as they are in the country right now to begin with, which is not great. If we would have some kind of a thing where either Trump or Biden, take your pick, on election night, they seem like the winner. But then as the days go along, when you start having recounts, when you start having absentee ballots, when you start having mail-in ballots being counted, not all the states count the mail-ins early, okay? So as time goes on, you end up with, well, maybe the other guy won.
Right.
And if this one ends up going to, in modern times, there really hasn't been a delegate vote that really was anything more than a formality. But imagine what would happen if we have a vote that's so close, it actually gets decided in December. Imagine what that would be. Imagine what that would be like.
It would definitely be the first time in U.S. history that something like that's happened. That's for sure.
It might have happened in the 1880s, something or other, but in modern times,
right?
It's never gone to that. And then you could have the possibility of court, proceedings, people challenging the counts in certain areas. I mean, this could be a mess. So my only thing is, I don't really care who wins. I don't like either one of these guys, to be honest with you. But whoever wins, I hope they win big. All right.
Right.
So that there's no question. Speaking of predictions, now you mentioned who you voted for, which is fine. Do you have any predictions? Who do you feel is going to take it?
It's going to be close. I'm hoping for Biden, but I still have this lingering feeling that Trump's going to win re-election.
Yeah.
And the electoral college isn't going to help, which I think we need to get rid of.
Are you
We
sure?
needed to get rid of it a long time ago. I am definitely sure on that, because it should be the more people who voted for someone, not necessarily giving each individual state power. You take away the battleground state thing, so that they'd be forced to actually campaign, throughout the country instead of just focusing on, a certain set of the populace.
Yeah.
It's just, I find it very outdated. And I mean, honestly, if there's like a stalemate too, why not just give each one of the old codgers 2 pistols and let them duel it out at dawn? I'd watch that.
Yeah.
I would actually watch CNN for that.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. Let's just say, for example, you are for renewable energy. You are for whether it be wind, solar. You want development in this area. And let's say you have an industry that is ready to go. Okay, and you want some government funding, but you're out in Iowa, and there's like 15,000 people in your town, and who knows how many others in the outskirts. And at some point in the future, the population centers are in Texas, and they're in Pennsylvania, and they're in places like that where drilling is pretty good, Fracking is pretty good. Oil is a big part of the economy, and you have millions of people in those locations. So you don't want any more of a voice. You don't want any more input than just the standard count.
No.
Really? So you're okay with majority rule, even if majority rule is not the best thing?
Well, I mean, right now we're experiencing a minority rule. If you think about it, the cities are the ones who are really deciding everything rather than the people in the country, which does kind of fuel that disconnect
that is happening.
We've been seeing in the past.
It would be worse though if we go to a popular vote. If you're out in the sticks, your vote means nothing because there's not an area that they need to concentrate on. What's going to happen is all the population centers are going to be the areas where the candidates go. That's
exactly what happens now.
To a degree, but you have some voice. You have some voice when you're out in the sticks because of the way that it's set up. And the other thing is this. Here's what a lot of people don't understand about the Electoral College, and I'll get your opinion on this. What I just described is the common explanation for keeping the Electoral College, in that everybody has somewhat of a voice than they may if they don't belong to a large population center. But one of the real reasons was this. The Founding Fathers knew that a pure democracy implode. They don't work because you can't trust the wisdom of the population. And that sounds like a very terrible thing to say.
Oh, no, people are stupid. I completely agree with that.
Sure, and that's why democracies that are successful have controls. In our case, we have a constitution. There are some things that are non-negotiable. Can you imagine civil rights or human rights or anything like that being put to a vote at any time in our history? No, of course not. It probably wouldn't have had the best result, right? Okay, and it's more than that. If you look what happened in Brexit when they put that deal on the ballot to vote on whether to stay or leave the European Union, a lot of people regretted their vote because they didn't know enough about it. And they had buyer's remorse on it. See, that's exactly why you send people somewhere to vote on your behalf, because they learn about the issues, okay? And that's what you send them there to do, to vote on your behalf. And a lot of times you have an ignorant public, or you have a public that, for example, just simply does not have the moral fortitude to do the right thing. And these are all reasons why a lot of times democracies don't work. And what the Founding Fathers realized is they said at some point in the future, if somebody like Vlad the Impaler starts to come up in the polls and it looks like he might win the election, we have to have a way to shut this down, okay?
Well, you never know. He might have a good campaign platform.
Anyway, that is a safety valve. That is one of the safety valves that the Founding Fathers put in. And I'm not sure. Do you think it's really a good idea to take that out?
I think it is, especially with presidential elections. Because, I mean, if you look at, you had 3 million more people who wanted Hillary to be president, but, because the bigger states got to decide it, it's a question of, I guess, local versus federal. I would like to see local and state governments have more power and have more, funding and stuff like that to kind of go in case by case. And I mean, really, each state is kind of like its own little mini country here in America.
Oh, sure. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't really know what the answer is.
Yeah.
But I personally think the Electoral College needs to go. And,
well, and
not even because it would have benefited my side last time or this time either. I'm just saying that it just seems like when you have a majority of people who wanted something and then the minority wins again, I mean, that's one of the problems that we have right now in the Senate.
I'll say one more thing about this. Be careful what you want. You just might get it. There was a time when conservatism had some of the hot centers around Los Angeles at one time during the 1970s was very conservative. So what you could end up having is having a deal where you switch this all around and you lose another election. And if you kept the Electoral College in place, you might have won.
Oh, I know. And I'm not saying for either candidate. I mean, even for a Democrat, like if a Democrat, won the majority, or a Republican won the majority vote, then that's fine with me. It would be the same thing.
Well, the other thing is it's not just economic issues, but you have areas of the country that have a different set of social mores. They have different leanings socially when it comes to maybe government funding and things like this. And groups do take on personalities. When you have large concentrations of populations, they do take on personalities. And a lot of times those personalities do not fit what's going around the country. And sometimes here again, it's not always for the betterment. If whether it be fossil fuels or anything else, a lot of times the old ways go away hard. And if those population centers adopt those policies, progress might be very difficult. So you got to balance those things out a little bit. Speaking of stacking the deck, I don't know if you followed what happened with the Supreme Court with Amy Coney Barrett. She was nominated. And this was kind of controversial because Trump nominated her, and this was put to a vote, and she was processed very quickly. Mm-hmm. And going back 4 years ago, 2016, Obama's nominee that whole thing was just totally thwarted.
Yep.
And the thing was, we can't have a president do this, at the end of his term. Now, the only difference was that there's no way Obama was going to be elected again because he was at the end of 2 terms. However, my opinion on this, he was president until January of the following year, period. Okay?
Oh, he should have pressured and rammed a candidate through.
Yeah.
I mean, that was stolen from him, and I still kind of get angry about that to this day.
I don't feel that was right. I don't feel what they did to Obama was correct. He was the president until January of that folling year, matter
what. It's his presidential duty in the Constitution.
And it's his duty, and he should have did it. But now we have this presumably very conservative. And of course, the issue about Roe versus Wade is very much an issue. A lot of people are afraid that's going to be in jeopardy. So now, speaking of stacking the deck, there's a lot of Democrats talking about packing the court. I personally don't want that to happen because here's the deal. Where's it going to end? The Supreme Court is supposed to be some sort of a balancing scale. And if it just is every 4 years we throw more justices on there to tip the political scales our way, then it loses its function. Where does it end? I personally don't want to have the court stacked. What's your opinion on that?
I think we need to reform it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily stack it. We have 9 justices, all right?
Correct.
I'd say keep the 9 justices, but only have, say, 4 that are appointed during Democratic and 4 that are appointed during Republican administrations, and then have the Chief Justice in the middle would be, the most senior one, and add term limits.
Yeah.
Say 20 years.
Sure. Yeah, I'm for the 20 years. Absolutely.
one problem I have with, how not just the Supreme Court works, but the circuit courts and the other courts as well, is that you have the world is rapidly changing in terms of technology with the internet and everything else. And you have these old codgers who don't understand how the internet, how smartphones, how Wi-Fi, how any of these technologies work, making laws and ruling on them. I mean, and it really just hinders progress a lot with, these new avenues we have for free speech.
Yeah.
And, honestly, I think more of a look should be taken about look at Facebook and Twitter, how they have pretty much a monopoly on public discourse.
Yeah.
And yet they're allowed to ban dissenting voices. They're allowed to ban harassment, stuff like that. Well, I mean, if someone's harassing you on Twitter, you just block them. I don't see why they need to be booted, unless they're doing something egregious like posting child porn or something like that, or selling drugs on there.
Yeah, sure.
But I mean, just merely having a different opinion than other people, I feel for conservative voices on that a little bit, because it's majority of them being booted off of these sites. I've seen it with a podcaster I like numerous times. He gets kicked off Twitter for making fun of someone, or making a joke or something, and it's just because somebody gets a hair up their butt about him and clicks report 500 times and then he's gone. I think something needs to be ruled about that. But you've got these justices in power who don't understand how any of this stuff works. So I really think there should be an age limit as well on the say the Supreme Court and the main circuit courts. I'd say maybe 50 to 60.
You mean to be nominated?
To be nominated and then put into charge.
Yeah, I was going to say, because that's pretty young. I would agree that 20 years, because these lifetime commitments, what happened with Ruth Bader Ginsburg is a prime example. She was just barely hanging on there towards the end, and I feel for her. I hate to see anybody, decline like that. It's horrible.
She should have retired during she had multiple times to retire during Obama's administration.
That's what I was going to say. That was a way when she was healthy to go out on her own terms, and then Obama might have had a chance to get a more moderate voice into the court while he was still president.
Right.
And it had here again, I'm not exactly sure how many years she served, but here again, getting back to term limits, I think something like that for the Supreme Court would be worth consideration. Because some of the here again, I don't like ageism any more than I like any other kind of ism. Okay,
Ginsburg was appointed in 1993 by Clinton, by the way.
Okay.
And so she was there for a long time.
Yeah, so that would have been 20 years in 2013.
Yep.
Yeah, and she was still, and quite frankly, you want these people to enjoy their lives. She could have retired at that point and enjoyed the last almost a decade, 7 years or so, and enjoyed life a little bit. And there's no reason why these people have to serve until they drop. There's no reason for that. Getting down to the final moments of the podcast here, I do notice some people on Facebook, and here again, I can't interact with them at the moment. I'm live on all the podcast networks, but thank you for being here.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking about COVID-19, just before we leave, here again, we've talked about how this has been politicized. Do you feel that there's going to be a vaccine?
Oh, man, I'm not a scientist. I know they're working on one right now, but it's going to be a while. And my problem with them ramming one through and taking kind of concessions on, say, the FDA requirements and everything is there was a vaccine a while back. I think it was either SARS or bird flu or something like that.
Yeah.
That was tested on humans prematurely and did cause a lot more damage than it saved. And given how easily or how many different symptoms and different ways the virus affects people, I would rather see a more comprehensive treatment than one that's just, this worked, on the first couple trials, so let's do it. I will not be getting a COVID shot until I see definite positive results on it. And the thing is, I think I already had it, by the way, back in February before anyone cared.
Yeah.
So because I was real sick for about 3 to 4 days and lost all sense of smell and taste.
Really?
For a good week and a half after that. And the funny thing is, I still went to work and everything because, we weren't all freaking out about it. We weren't locked down or anything.
Yeah.
So in my case, it didn't affect me as much, but I really feel like they need to do a little bit more work on it rather than rushing it out, because just as a product of the public's panic.
Yeah. Well, I have some friends in the medical community, and I've talked to them, and I've also done some of my own research. And I would have to say, like the polio vaccine is the polio vaccine, period. Smallpox is smallpox. Flu, not so much. You got variations, all right? Yep. It changes all the time. And this is an RNA virus, COVID-19 is, which is even worse. So it's not like you're going to have this magic shot. And it's
especially because it mutates so quickly.
Yeah, what you're going to end up happening is you're going to have a series of vaccines probably over a period of time, and each one of them will be like 30% successful, 40% successful, and then 70% successful. And this might go on, quite frankly, for years. Mm-hmm. This isn't one of those situations. Well, in February we're going to have a vaccine, and that's done. I mean, there's always a chance that some amazing scientist is going to come up with something, and it's going to blow us away. But the chances is that this is not going to have a magic bullet solution.
No.
And with the anti-vaxxers being the way that they are, oh my God. How many people are going to take it?
I actually met one.
It causes spontaneous human combustion. It's crazy.
It'll make your child not be able to read faces or emotions.
Yes, your urine will become flammable.
I've actually met an anti-vaxxer in real life. I didn't think they actually existed. I thought that they were just like a meme. And oh my God, dude, some of the arguments I would have with this woman, it blew my mind. Like, I don't really want to get into it because it irritates me. But yeah, they do exist, and I have met a flat earther. I got to say, the flat earther was at least less destructive than the anti-vaxxer, so he had that going for him, But,
well, there's Middle Earth people now too. They say that there's white supremacists that are at the center of the earth. There's a whole civilization down there, and apparently they're like Snow White. What's that?
Are they hobbits?
Yeah, they're like Snow White. And if you listen to these Middle Earthers, the Nazis went down to Antarctica to find this secret passage down there.
Oh, you're talking about Hollow Earthers.
Hollow Earthers. Okay, whatever. Yeah.
Oh, those people are fascinating, man. Oh
yes.
My God.
Well,
what? The Nazis went down and found some technology from these under the earth people by going through the North Pole.
Yeah. Well, so what would be really cool is we could set up a debate. We could have the flat earthers over here and the hollow earthers over here. We could have them argue about which one.
I would love it.
That would be.
I'd watch that. My favorite conspiracy theory lately that I ran across is that birds aren't real.
Birds are not real.
No, they're actually surveillance drones that were put into place by the Reagan administration to monitor the populace. And the reason that you see them on the power lines all the time is that's how they recharge.
Oh, there you go.
That's my favorite one lately.
Speaking of the anti-vaxxers, there's always the people that say that the vaccine is going to be the sign of the devil. Those are the ones that really drive me up a wall.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing to me. This isn't Salem, Massachusetts 400 years ago.
No.
And we're still talking about the devil.
I was supposed to go there, by the way, and COVID killed it. So.
Oh yeah. Well, there you go. COVID ruins everything, even a good witch.
It really does.
Can't even have a decent witch burning these days.
No, man. Somebody else might get infected. I mean. I find it funny how we've been swinging between I hate science and I love science this past year too. Oh, they're making a vaccine. I love science. Oh, global warming doesn't exist. I hate scientists.
Oh yeah. It depends.
I swear to God, people have short-term memory amnesia these days or something. Nobody remembers anything for more than 5 minutes.
Well, people have a tendency to believe what they want to believe, and they'll accept the facts that support their position and dismiss the others.
Right.
And that's. That's something that, quite frankly, even scientists, that's why there's peer reviews. Even they can fall victim to that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, getting to predictions, you kind of feel that it might swing Trump's way. Is that what I got from you earlier?
Yeah, but I could be very wrong.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the polls and how the polls went in 2016, I mean, we're kind of seeing the same thing here.
Yeah.
That and I mean, we're in a year now too, and this is why I think the Democrats screwed up with their VP position. It has nothing to do with race or gender. I don't care what color you are or whatever, but there's been a lot of hatred for the police and the Justice Department right now. And who do we have as a VP candidate right now? Oh, a DA.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like that's going to negatively impact things. Also, a lot of people don't want to vote for a woman. That's just kind of how it is.
Unfortunately, that's true. I'm
not saying it's right. It's just
no.
true.
It has nothing to do with right or wrong. I mean, we're talking about the way it is.
Yep.
And quite frankly, I have met women who have said they wouldn't want to vote for a woman. I have
too.
Yeah, it's not uncommon. It is absolutely not uncommon. I personally, I've been trying to gauge this. It seems like the polls are tipping towards Biden. However, that has been changing in some areas. It's getting tighter here in Ohio. It's getting tighter in Texas. And it's getting tighter in some other places.
It's also going to be interesting to see how this widespread early voting and the more ballots being cast from home is going to swing polls and swing the election as well. Because, I mean, a lot of people have already voted, and that's going to definitely influence, people's answers to poll questions.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how that affects things. And my main thing is that I can't wait for November 4th, no matter who wins, because then my mailbox will be about 75% garbage free. And I will stop getting those stupid campaign texts and calls that get more and more crazy as time goes on.
Well, they don't, it used to be you could say, I'll be glad when the election's over. But the fact of the matter is they're never over. I have a feeling like we talked about earlier, there might be complications with this one. And even if it's over, it's not going to be over because the campaign for the next one starts the very next day.
The only thing I'm worried about is running out of campaign flyers to start bonfires with.
Yeah, so, there you go.
It's funny. My phone rings. I'm like, oh, hey, somebody wants to hang out. Oh, it's Biden again.
Yeah.
He's lonely and needs money. Good Lord.
I was checking out some of the pundits. I watched that program called The Circus Sunday night to kind of get some background for predictions. And everybody's saying, this could be a landslide either way. This could be close. It's off the charts.
See, that's the thing. Nobody knows what the hell is going on, but nobody wants to admit that they don't know what's going on.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. The next 24, 48 hours, 72 hours is going to be very interesting. The best thing I can tell everybody is just stay cool. We've done this before. This is an election in America. We've done this before. And, let's be safe and, let's love each other. That's the thing. We were talking at my day job the other day about kindness and how that is a forgotten virtue. We have forgotten about kindness. We are obsessed with being right. We are obsessed with our guy winning. We are obsessed with I told you so. We are obsessed with
voting the libs.
Yeah. Let's stop that. And, at the end of the day, we all have to go to work. We all have to send our kids to school. We all have to try to do the best we can to get by. And the long and the short of it is that people are obsessed with Donald Trump. They are obsessed with Joe Biden. They are obsessed with this election. And a lot of
weird, isn't it?
Yeah, and I
have never seen anything like it. I mean, it's like this strange little cult has formed around both sides.
And what I was going to say is a lot of them don't know who their local representatives are. A lot of them don't know who their councilmen are. And there's a good chance that those local people are affecting your life on a daily basis a lot more than what's going on in Washington, D.C.
Oh, no doubt.
So anyway, Jack, I want to thank you for coming on. Jack is one of several guest hosts that come on every once in a while, and especially when I want to talk about politics, he's always a good choice. Mr. Jack Casey, thank you very much for being on the program today.
Hey, man. Anytime, man. I'll come on whenever you want. Maybe we can do a post-election show.
You know what?
I'm going to be off work till next week.
All right, let's plan on doing that. And for a post-election show, you can follow me. For the people out there listening, you can follow me on Twitter. That's kind of like my social media home at Billy Dees, and all my links in one way or another in my bio on Twitter. You can also follow the Facebook page for Billy Dees Podcast. Now that's new. I kind of sort of like have a small community of people on Facebook. But that is a public page, Billy Dees Podcast on Facebook. And we'll kind of see what happens here over the next few days. Maybe we can plan something and do a follow-up show to talk about how things went. In the meantime, the live shows are kind of like independent here for those of you who may not know, the live shows we do every so often. They're kind of a separate thing from the interview programs. Next week, we will probably have a commentary program, and I got a couple of interviews coming up that are due to be produced. Those will be coming up within the weeks ahead as well, and those will happen no matter what. And the live shows we will do when we do them, depending on what goes on. Typically, we try to do the live shows on Mondays. Monday nights seem like a good time to do a live show, so follow-up shows can be any time, but obviously for a live show to be the debut for the week, that happens on a Monday. So just follow the Billy Dees Podcast page on Facebook or follow me on Twitter at Billy Dees. Jack, thank you very much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Okay, and for everybody else, we'll talk to you again really soon, and stay safe out there, and be careful voting. Keep your mask on and do everything right. Thank you very much. Well, hello, everyone. I am Billy Dees from the self-titled Billy Dees Podcast. You can find me on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and many more of the best podcast networks. Join me for my commentary and interviews. Follow me on Twitter, real easy to find, at Billy Dees. I am Billy Dees. I'd love to have you listen in.